talking a little bit about
I think that would be great. I think if you could read it. Dave, do you think that the Philadelphia Flyers are any different today than they were a few years ago when you played for them?
No, I don't think so. They still have their same philosophy. I think that is to play aggressive hockey. I think when a kid is drafted and by the Philadelphia Flyers, because of the past reputation, which started really when I went there, that they know that the style of the Flyers and that they're going to have to play that way. And a lot of the players are drafted because they have been aggressive in junior.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reputation is there. I think it's kind of a thing where the players, they read the press clippings, they say that we're a violent team, well, we better live up to our press clippings type of thing. And I think that their philosophy will always be the same style.
Now, I've heard from sources in Philadelphia that many of the Flyers feel that they're getting a bum deal, that they're not that bad, that it's partly the press is to blame.
Well, that's probably true to a certain extent. I think every maybe league, they always, no matter whether it's football or baseball, they always have a team that sort of the black horses and to pick on type of thing. They still play pretty chippy hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think when players say that we're being picked on or the team does, I can understand it to a certain extent, but they still deserve a lot of the press that they get, because I've watched a few games. And
you think they're as bad as they ever were?
Well, I don't think, because of the new rules brought in,
mm-hmm.
that as far as the brawling and they don't fight as much. There's not as many majors probably.
Yeah.
But I think the chippiness is still there. Yes.
Yeah, but you've seen the Minnesota North Stars and the Bruins and the Flyers go into the stands. I mean, come on, that's a little much, isn't it?
Well, I think as far as going into the stands, personally, I never ever went into the stands. And even when I was playing with Philadelphia,
Well, what's gotten into these guys?
Well, I think that they feel, again, a lot of it is spontaneous, and maybe sometimes it's the fans' fault too, but I think players have to take more control. I think the coaches and managers should have more control over their players.
Mm-hmm.
And every action by a player is backed 100% by the coach and the team. And I think that the coaches, maybe there has to be some legislation or penalties brought against the coaches. And
what kind of penalties do you see?
Well, I don't know, if money doesn't seem to talk. I mean, the teams that are for the Flyers, I mean, they've got lots of money. So that's not going to be maybe a problem. I don't know, unless they got into heavy fines.
Mm-hmm.
Suspending the coach or... I mean, I saw a game, it was when Buffalo played in Philadelphia, and it was right at the end of a period, and Rick Sealing and Bobby Clark were mixing it up a little bit. Now, anybody knows that Rick Sealing isn't going to cause any problem.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, someone should probably go to Rick Sealing's aid. But the whole Flyer team took off across the ice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, nothing developed, but it was a sign that it was unnecessary. Now, the coach didn't say, stay back here. Okay, it could have erupted into a brawl.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this feeling that of players thinking that they can do anything they want. I think a 2-3 game suspension really isn't much of a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And, we can get into all kinds of different things about, violence and stuff. And to think that, just for example, and I don't mean to get away from the problem with the Flyers or the question with the Flyers, but when a spearing penalty or a high sticking penalty you get the same penalty as if you're holding or tripping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's no difference. But yet, as far as the violence, there's a great difference. And many times, if you spear a guy, if you don't really hurt him, you get 2 minutes. If you hurt him a little bit, you get 5. And if you really get him and put him out, he has to be carried off, then you might get a match. And I think even if you miss them, you should get heavily suspended.
Do you,
Even though I was always involved, whenever they talked about violence, okay, they would say, well, the odd fight's okay, it's the stick stuff. Then they'd show a picture of me fighting and say, no, this is violence. I did do a lot of fighting, but I never used my stick.
would you say you weren't violent then?
Well, yeah, in a way. Well, fighting is violence too. Okay, it's the severity of it, I guess. And I don't really know whether fighting should be taken right out of the game or not. I don't think that's the problem. The problem is the sticks. And when a player gets away with an incident in a corner because the referee can't see everything, which is a problem too, that someone has to retaliate. And this is built into, I think, everyone. If someone gives it to you, you got to give them back somehow.
Okay.
We had a few guys that would use the stick a little bit. I know I did most of my fighting on the road. Because when you're in your own building, if you hit a guy, if he doesn't challenge you, fine. But when he's in front of his home fans, and a guy maybe hits him, whether it's just being over-aggressive or whatever, you have to kind of retaliate. Well, not all players will anyway, but this is the way I felt about the game. Okay, if a guy gives it to you, someone's got to retaliate, and so maybe there might be more happening in Buffalo here than the game in Philadelphia.
Were you aware that maybe the kind of game that you played drew people into the stands? I mean, in cities where hockey isn't all that big, were you aware that people were coming in just to see what you were up to?
Sure. I mean, so many of the cities, the fans love to hate me. I mean, they couldn't wait till I got on the ice. I could tell. I could just feeling when I stepped out on the ice, particularly if it was developing into a pretty aggressive game and it was guys throwing the weight around. And a lot of times I was.
How did you feel about that? You're a nice guy. I mean, everybody says this is not the Dave Schultz I used to see on the ice.
Well, it was. I'd psyched myself up. I totally felt that my job was to make sure someone retaliated, and it wasn't fun, believe me.
You didn't like that.
The only part I liked was that it helped the team.
Yeah.
But as far as and I liked the notoriety. I got a lot of publicity, but I certainly didn't like the build-up. I never wanted to say I'm going to get so-and-so, because then everyone's watching me and expecting it, and I didn't need any more pressure than I already had.
Yeah.
And I put too much pressure on myself. I shouldn't have felt so obligated to fight for the rest of the guys. If asked a question, if I had to do it all over again, what would I do? And part of it I don't regret. Okay, the part that I did make extra money. We won this. I was on the Stanley Cup teams. All the notoriety. Doing something that I wasn't just average. As a hockey player I was, but the fighting and all the penalty minutes made me different. And I don't know whatever compelled me. In the book itself, in the book that I'm writing, I talk about why did I thrive on this, and it all goes back really to when I was a kid. I was very self-conscious. I had no confidence in myself. Okay, poor self-esteem really, and it was an outlet. I was getting feedback, and again, I'm going to try and bring this all out and try and have people understand that. But what do I regret about it? Just the fact that I got kind of carried away in it all. I guess I kind of don't like the game no more. It didn't become fun to me anymore. And when I was a kid, I just loved skating and shooting and passing, just the basic skills. And I was always a good goal scorer until my year out of junior, when I even did score 30 goals in that Eastern Hockey League, but I ended up with over 300 minutes in penalties, doing a lot of fighting. And then when I got to Philly, I was told, we don't care if you score any goals. You're just as valuable sitting on the bench as you are on the ice. And you keep being told that, you soon forget that you had any hockey ability. I mean, what makes hockey interesting? What makes sports interesting? I mean, there's intimidation in all sports. It's the guy putting himself out there. He never had the chance, maybe, and you know, identifying himself in that role, putting himself in that role. And the fact that I think that I wasn't a dirty hockey player, that I just dropped my gloves and fought. Like, I mean, that was my whole motto, was to drop my gloves and fight, win or lose. Okay, hopefully come out okay.
Yeah.
And yet helping the team. But I was an entertainer.